Good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. The date is on the 13th of January 2022, slowly coming in to the past of the half of the month of January. And thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in today. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and the show is Kenya and Africa at Large. And as usual on the show, I'll bring us the headlines, and then my panelists will join me just in a little bit, and then we'll start our conversation by looking at some of the articles or some of the items making headlines. We'll start with Kenya and then across the continent of Africa. And we start with the Star newspaper. And the headline on the Star newspaper: Kalonzo team pushes for poll deal with Raila. People close to the former vice president say Saturday meeting in Yatta to propose renewed political friendship. The story is on page 6 of the Star newspaper. And Karua elect leaders who will protect your resources. You'll find that on page 4 and 5 on the Star newspaper. I want justice for son killed in police custody. That is on page 3. Al-Shabaab throw party in Lamu, feast on goat ribs. The story is on page 22. And hopes dim as Bondo miner remains buried in collapsed mine 40 days later. That is on page 2 on the Star newspaper. And then we turn our attention to the Daily Nation, and on the Daily Nation, Uhuru invites Azimio MPs for election talks. President Kenyatta is today set to host lawmakers supporting his handshake deal with ODM chief Raila Odinga at a State House meeting in which he is expected to give direction on his succession. Mr. Odinga and One Kenya Alliance principals Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, and Gideon Moi have also been invited. The story is on page 4. Shame of sham hate speech prosecutions as culprits walk free. The story is on page 7. And Kinoti launches probe into Kenya power outages. DCI takes over investigations into the collapse of high voltage transmission lines, even as an initial inquiry pointed to vandalism by scrap metal dealers. The story is on the back page of the Daily Nation. And relief for motorists as High Court holds high insurance premiums. You'll find that on the back page as well. And Omicron-filled COVID cases on a downward trend. That is on page 8. And Ruto's big promise to city youth in Bleeds tour. You'll find that on page 5. And AFCON debacle as match ends before 90 minutes. And we shall look at that when we'll be looking at our African stories on page 3 and also on the sports pages on page 50 and 51 on the Daily Nation, even as the AFCON continues there in Cameroon. And then we turn our attention to the Standard newspaper, and the main headline of the Standard newspaper: Eye on Uhuru as Natembeya begins exit. Although the official quit date for Senate for state officers joining politics is 3 weeks away, more big names are expected to follow in the footsteps of Natembeya, who resigned. The stories on page 10 and 11. I doubt if more big names are set to follow in these footsteps. The last we checked, someone is in court, challenging that. So, but we'll wait and see. But there you go. Natembeya has now exited active civil service and now wants to join politics. And rest as CS Magoha pledges more approved schools. Okay, I have a lot to say about that. The story is on page 14 on the Standard newspaper. And experts for the good and bad news on Omicron variant. That is on page 13. Relief as court holds hike in insurance cost. You'll find that on page 27. A Cup of Nations Nigeria fires warning short. That is on page 54, 55, and 56 on a special coverage of AFCON as it continues there in Cameroon. And so that is just what we have on the front pages of the leading newspapers. So now let me just take us quickly to other newspapers across the continent. And the Daily Monitor from Uganda, the main headlines: teachers refuse to return to class. A number of schools countrywide, mostly private owned, are now looking for teachers to fill vacant positions after it appeared a good number of them moved on to more lucrative businesses during the 2-year lockdown. I think that is That is quite interesting. They don't want to go back to work, while our teachers here are really suffering during, the period of COVID-19, especially those from private schools who could not receive their salaries after, being out of a class for a very long time. Sometimes back last year, I think 2020. But in Uganda seems to be a different case. I wonder why. Okay, and so government puzzled over revised curriculum. The story is on page 13 on the Daily Monitor there, and that is what you have. And also the new vision from Uganda, NSSF midterm pay period set, and that is what we have there. And then a new day, that is from Zimbabwe, tension in ED backyard, that is President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe. And the Guardian from Nigeria, federal government gives Twitter ban after 222 days. Oh my goodness, this is some very good news, especially to our viewers who are in Nigeria. And I think we covered this story extensively last year, and about 546.5 billion naira economic losses that have suffered Buhari. Look at that. Explain to me how that was a wise move on your part. But you'll find that on the front page on the Guardian there, and perhaps we'll look at that much later. And Summit urges Nigeria to galvanize other nations to seek debt relief, and Nigerians tired of killings, says Lawan. We are tired of the killings in Nigeria ourselves, back here in East Africa. So I can imagine how tired it is for Nigerians themselves who have to go through all, the horror of not knowing if you wake up tomorrow or if your child will go to school and come back home safe because of the insecurity and the kidnappings and all that has been going on in Nigeria. The Punch newspaper, the main headline, a terrorist on the rampage in Plateau, Niger, kill 52, abduct hunters. See, it continues. So why would they not be outraged? And then, I think the Daily News, Zimbabwe bids to cure election quarrels as ZANU-PF expresses readiness to engage opposition on this. So that is just a bit of what we have, a conversation we shall have at the tail end of our show. But first of all, we will start with the headlines from Kenya. Of course, charity begins at home. And to help me do that, I'm joined this morning by Sharon Gitonga, our in-house analyst and also public relations expert. Sharon Gitonga, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam, from the headquarters in Nairobi. My colleague panelist, Samuel Tawish, and all our viewers who are watching us, whether it's in Kenya, Africa, and the globe. It is a pleasure to be part of this show. Good morning.
All right, and I'm being requested if you could just unmute your video there. That would be nice for the sake of our viewers. Yes, I'm being requested that if you can do that. Thank you so much. And we're also joined this morning by Samuel Tawish, a journalist and our correspondent here at Punchline, and he's based in Nairobi. Samuel Tawish, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning indeed to you, Miriam Ogutu, at our headquarters. Good morning to my sister Sharon Gitonga and all our viewers watching this program in Kenya and across the globe. My pleasure to join you on this program. Good morning, Miriam.
All right, a very good morning. So I do have a few of these stories that I've picked up that I want us to talk about, and I want us to look at this issue of Magoha and what he said, what the government he feels should be doing right now. On page 14 on the Standard newspaper, before we get into the politics, because we know there's so much politics to talk about, but Education Cabinet Secretary, I'm reading from page 14 of the Standard newspaper, the Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has said abolishing boarding schools is not a remedy for curbing unrest in learning institutions. Professor Magoha said the answer to taming school unrest lies in establishing approved schools to reform wayward children. The CS blamed the unrest in truancy. Magoha said 99% of boarding schools are well run and there haven't been cases of unrest in majority of them. He noted that it would therefore make sense to abolish them due to trouble in a few schools. He was speaking at Mahiga Girls yesterday during a groundbreaking ceremony for CBC classrooms. Magoha said the Ministry of Education will deal firmly with cases of unrest in schools. And as I was reading this story earlier on, I didn't know really how to feel. First, as a parent, I don't know if you're having troubled children in school, because we know some of the stakeholders Tawish, have been proposing that perhaps we need to make our guidance and counseling departments in these schools active, and we need more funding and we need more qualified personnel to be able to handle all these incidences and of indiscipline, and perhaps guiding the students and all that as part of the measures to address some of the issues. But now the CS Magoa is coming here and saying what we need now is more approved schools to take these children who perhaps need help. Is this the way to actually solve this problem of indiscipline in our schools, Tawish?
Miriam, thank you so much for that question. And I can quite assure you this is going to elicit a lot of reaction, especially from members of the public and particularly parents, because again, you know, in as much as we all condemn the kind of course, unrest that you have witnessed or in the recent past in most of our schools, especially public schools, Miriam, some of the suggestions that are being brought forth by the Ministry of Education are not going to be received well by parents, and I also presume even the students themselves, because I will suppose maybe we go with that suggestion that we get more of guiding and counseling facilities in some of these learning institutions, because again, our understanding of what could be the problem or what is the cause of this unrest could be associated, say, with trauma, could be associated with some depression, could be associated with so many challenges that perhaps these, of course, students go through coming from their homes. Maybe some are related with their parents at home. So I will really advise that the best way forward will be to encourage guiding and counseling in our schools, and also the parents to take up that role, so that it's not just left on teachers alone to be able to give this guidance to the students. Because Miriam, what it appears to me is that the parents now seem to have abrogated the duty of taking care of the children solely to the teachers. I think this is a responsibility that all of us must really take into, by ensuring that even when these kids come back home, especially those who are in boarding schools, we are able to have a conversation with them. We are able to listen some of the views they have, because in the past you've seen even some students really going even to the extent of committing suicide. Children who are even in primary school committing suicide, and they leave behind some notes saying maybe their parents were not listening to them, maybe their teachers in school were so harsh to them. And so whenever we have this conversation and discussions with these students, we are able to get to understand them better. But this suggestion is something I'm very sure that the stakeholders are really not going to agree on, because to them, they think we will be more like encouraging these kids or students really to engage in this unruly behavior, because by the end of the day, we have facilities that are going to take care of them. And most of us, if you are to go down and get to understand what has been the consequences of some of the approved schools, or the children who have been taken to these approved schools, have they changed? Have they improved in terms of their behavior? Are they coming out as better? The people, are we now taking them into hard and harsh places where they're going to be hardened even more? So we must be very, very careful on how we are going to approach this. I'm sure it's a delicate matter. It's something that everybody is coming up with their own suggestion, but by the end of the day, we must be able to harmonize all these suggestions and come out with the best model to address this particular problem. Miriam, I submit.
Very well, thank you so much. Very well said there, Aslam Tawish. Sharon, before you just come in, let me read a quote. Let me just quote what the CS for Education said yesterday. That has been captured here on the stand, that he said, there is a question as to those who smoke bang and other drugs in boarding schools. Approved schools will deal with them. Like, is this where is this, you know, I don't know. Is this a way to solve this problem, Sharon?
Miriam, you know, as day goes by, you know, it's very clear that there has been a bone of contention and, you know, a deficit of communication, especially from different stakeholders in the education sector, whether the PS, the CS, the parents, and even even the board of the teachers at large. And, you know, they seem to be reading from different scripts, from different narratives and different directives that you've been hearing from the CS. You know, the other day, I saw teachers that, and especially principals, were really up on arms because, the Minister of Education actually told the principals not to send the children away, because they provide capitation. And, the principals were like, I mean, what kind of capitation is this? Some of it is peanuts. I mean, there are boardings that needs to run, children need to eat. So when you look at, all the things that have been going around, there's something that really needs to be done. It's time that, we get stakeholders sit down with sobriety and non-partisanship, so to, put in structural reforms that are going to transform the education sector. Because if we continue doing things this way, it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us big time. And education is something that cannot really be ignored. When I look at the directives about the drug test, I would say that it is, one thing, but, we need to get down into the root, into the deep roots that really cause the sort of unrest. And I've always talked about either their enabling environment that they are. Why do they ban, dormitories? Why don't they ban labs? That should be something that really needs to be looked into. And at the same time, bringing back, the likes of psychosocial programs and that event I wish, and you have also talked about it, that is, whereby we create an environment for guidance and counseling. I mean, mental health is on the high rise. People have been depressed. There's so much that comes around counseling and, posing, tough year with tough, with such a tight academic year is not really going to, be very comfortable for these students. So I think for us to get a credible, moral, virtue, and all-rounded systems with our students, remember, these are the people that we are entrusting as our future leaders. I mean, the ball falls squarely at the foot of the Ministry of Education, and it's high time, we do something around it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, the mixed messaging there that you have made reference to, because it's just the other day that we were having this conversation when the PS in the education ministry said, you know what, give a stern warning actually to the teachers and the school management that if a child wants to go home, let them go home until they're ready to come back. And I think we had that conversation, and it was a bit controversial as well. And now the CS for education comes out and said, you know what, now what I think the solution for the problems and the indiscipline we have in our schools is building more approved schools. Have we lost the plot, Daniel Wasonga?
Yes, thank you so much, Miriam Ogutu, and my fellow panelists, Sharon Gitonga, Tawish Olesasina, and our viewers here in Kenya and the rest of the world. It is my pleasure to be in this conversation this morning. And regards to your question, I believe as a society, we've really failed. And it begins from home. They say charity begins from home. So if you see most of our students being errant in school, banning our schools, their decorum actually dwindling and all that, I believe we have failed, first of all, as parents at home. And secondly, building more approved schools does not guarantee that these kids are gonna be of good character, because I believe character and virtue should be taught into someone's maybe behavior. And therefore, I believe maybe this is just gonna harden them. And whatever we need to actually solve the problem. We need not to manage the problem, like I always say. So managing the problem, it means our children should be taught values right from when they are at home to the time when they start school and all the way into their lives. You realize that in countries like Singapore, in countries like China, let's say the Southeast Asian countries, these are countries where values are taught to children from a very, very early age, because they are actually embedded into their culture. A young child knows that if they board a bus and they see an elderly person standing as they are sitting, they have to stand up. It is always the obligation of a junior person in the society for them to give way to the senior person in society. So that creates some kind of discipline, and actually it strengthens their morality and the way they carry themselves out in the society. But you realize that in Kenya, we have a lot of freedom. Today, if you are a teacher had to cane your kid at school, you could go to court and it will bring trouble to the school and the teacher. So I believe, my belief is that approved schools might not work in bringing back discipline in our kids. but embedding morals that will be able to carry these kids throughout their lives is what they need to do. You look at a religion like the Buddhist religion. Why do people who believe in Buddhism take their kids to sit with the monks and all that? Because they believe that these monks have life values, life skills that are able to make these young people to be upright people in society, of course, based in their on their culture and also their religion. So this is something that has to be embedded through education, not through maybe the physical punishment and the strictness of maybe the approved schools. So to me, I think we should have these values embedded into the lifestyles of our kids as early as they are at home. They understand how life is, and also as they begin school. And I'm very happy that CBC is taking that into account. So I believe that will be the best way. Otherwise, bringing on board the approved schools, it might work or it might work against us, because remember, the tough conditions that are in the approved schools may only work to harden these students without necessarily softening their hearts and making them respectable human beings as they indulge with the other members of the society. So to me, I think these can be educated, can be embedded in our education and passed through to the learners rather than building more approved schools. I submit.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. And this is not to say that the students who are caught, who are culpable of some of the incidences we're seeing, the arson cases we see in our school, should not go unpunished. I think they should understand that, you know, there are freedoms, but also that comes with responsibility. And if you want to express yourself and something that you don't agree with, there are better ways to go about it. So I agree that we should find a way of punishing the students. Absolutely, they should be punished. We've seen so many kids lose their lives in the hands of very few students, but also these issues are just deeper than just sending them to an approved school. From my understanding of an approved school, this is like a junior jail. I don't know, maybe I'm just wrong in my perception, but I've not heard any good stories coming from these schools, all right? It's like, you're underage, so we can't take you to the actual jail, but we'll keep you here. I don't know what goes in there, but I guess they reform kids and all that. And this knee-jerk, solutions and the mixed messaging that is coming out from the Ministry of Education in ways they're seeking to address the issue of insecurity in our schools. Why are they coming out? Every senior official coming out and giving this different, messaging. Can they just sit down as stakeholders? I look at these issues, engage, and come out and speak in one voice instead of these, things they keep throwing in and out of these public events that really does not show, perhaps a ministry that is serious about addressing the issue when it comes to the, indiscipline in our schools. Tawish.
Miriam, a lack of synchronized and harmonized communication, especially in government, is one of those things that have really impeded into President Uhuru Kenyatta's even achievements in terms of members of the public getting to understand exactly what is it that the Jubilee administration under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta has been able to achieve ever since it came into power in 2013 to date, Miriam. And when you talk about this lack of synchronized communication, it has affected also various ministries in the Jubilee administration. And the education ministry is not an exception. And in this case, I think, Miriam, it boils down to us really to challenge the officials at the Ministry of Education and also even other stakeholders in various parastatals and government agencies, really to have a coherent approach when it comes to their messaging. Because again, when you have, for instance, the CS giving a different version or a different position, and also a PS giving a different position, and you have a CAS also giving a different position. And when you go down even to the sub-county levels, you get education officials also at those particular cadres giving different versions and different information altogether, to a point that the members of the public are left wondering really which is the true position of government in as far as this position is concerned. So I think they need to streamline the mode of communication to make sure that once communication is done, that is taken as the position of government, so that we do not want to get that conflicting position. And when you get the conflicting positions, Miriam, in terms of messaging, it even makes those who intend to implement these messages or government policies really have an excuse in terms of not implementing it to the effect that is desirable. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think it's you, Tawish, who brought up the issue of society and the lack of perhaps proper upbringing these schools have in the different homes that they come from. There's a time I was in a very upmarket school somewhere in Kilimani, and it was around lunchtime, and the kids were queuing for lunch. I'd gone to some for a certain activity over there, and these kids they're from the upmarket. And they were calling each other names even as an adult. I can't sit here and repeat. Very indisciplined. And I asked, and I think there are teachers around there. Why are teachers not taking any action? Because for me, that shocked me. I could not imagine my son speaking like that anywhere, not in the house, not even in school or anywhere else. And they said, the school management, the kids come first because the kids are the customers and they bring in a lot of money in this school. And so if a teacher dares even to discipline a child, it is the teacher who will be fired, and the child would, because they're concerned about the money. And that really got me to think, because my child went through the primary school, a Catholic school, where you could not even imagine any form of indiscipline. And if they noted, it's headed by a nun. They noted any sign of indiscipline, they call you the parent, the first time, the second time, the third time, your child is out of that school. So I looked at the situation in my son's school and that school, and I said, okay, we are in trouble if that and that school has a huge population. So you can imagine kids are in a space where they can't even be corrected, because if a teacher dares to correct this child, the teacher will lose their job. So yeah, as much as we want to sit here and sometimes complain about these things, truly, some of the parents and the society indeed is failing these kids. I think everybody has to have their hands on deck if we need to save this generation and the generations to come. Okay, let's look at another story on page 3 on the Standard newspaper. And Kericho Senator Aaron Cheriot appeared before the National Cohesion and Integration Commission yesterday over remarks deemed to border on racism and incitement. The senator is accused of making the remarks during the United Democratic Alliance UDA rally in Eldoret on January 8th, where he is said to have spoken in Kalenjin language, castigating the locals for electing, he says, Member of Parliament Mishra Swarup Ranjam, aka Kiprop, in 2017. He allegedly questioned how the MP of Indian descent came to Eldoret in 1997 with only one trouser and a bag, and has now built a business empire. That sounds like DP William Root. I'm not saying he went there with a bag, but I mean, he can't explain a lot of his wealth. But now the Kericho senator is wanting to know how this member of parliament from there, who is not from there, like in terms of his ethnicity, but he came in there and he set up business, but is now doing well. So Cheriot is questioning that. What do you make of this sentiment, first of all, Sharon?
Miriam, first of all, I'm happy and glad to hear that he's been summoned by the NCIC, because these are remarks that were that left everyone and quite jittery, and I hope much is much is going to be done in these regards, and he's not just going to be given a bail, and that case is going to be closed up, because I think the day we will ever be able to progress as a country is the day we will stop balkanizing people along their ethnic and tribal lines. And the moment we start appreciating the beauty of diversity and learn to peacefully, coexist as a country, and not, you being a Wanjiko or a Kamau or by your name. And, this was quite some bad remarks, given that, I think there are other counties that have actually been run by people with, Indian accents. And, I think the North Imenti, that is where I come from back in Meru, is of an Indian accent. And he has done tremendously great. And in fact, he's actually serving his second term. Also, when you look at Kisumu East MP Shakir, he's actually in his second term. And truth be told, they have actually done well. So I think we need to stop, looking at any person that has been called to serve and is competent, not by their race or by their ethnic or anything, but as long as they are competent and they are able to transform this country, that is exactly what what this country needs. So from where I sit, I am hoping that some action is going to be taken upon Kericho Senator, because for having steered up such words that are meant to cause division. Yeah, so let's wait and see what NCIC is going to crack about this whole saga. Thank you.
Veral, thank you so much. And perhaps, Daniel, what really baffled me with this statement is that Cheriot wanting questioning how the MP of the Indian descent, of course, that is profiling somebody, came to Eldoret in 1997 with only one trouser in the bag and has now built a business empire. If we were to question the lifestyle audit that these people do not even want, then we know who we should be starting with.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, Aaron Cheriot, the senator of Kericho, is a well-known warmonger in the political circles. Not long ago, he said that if the deep state or maybe the people from Mount Kenya who are in government will keep on fighting William Ruto. And from what he said, I quote, if they keep pushing us to the wall, then they will know who we are. And he threatened them, telling them that in history, they have always attacked the people of Mount Kenya who are living in the Rift Valley through his own coded message. And therefore, in that regard, he was also summoned by NCIC to be able to clarify and record a statement regarding whatever utterances that he made. So this is a man who still has a pending court case in regards to hate speech. And therefore, when he says that Mishra Arap Chelulei came with a single trouser from Punjab a few years ago in 1997, and right now he's fighting William Ruto. And therefore, he told the people of Uasin Gishu categorically in Kalenjin dialect that they need to deport him to Punjab. I know, Miriam, that really means a lot. For the people who have been always fighting other communities living in the Rift Valley, whatever they understand by saying that you should deport him to the Punjab, back to Punjab, it simply means whatever happens in 2008, 2007, where Mteshi was almost deported back to Western Kenya, where a lot of Kikuyus who are living in Rift Valley were sent back to Laikipia and Nyandarua counties and all that. It is forceful eviction and deportation of people, which is against the international criminal law. And therefore, Miriam, to me, I think I understood it that way. And there's no any subtle terms that you can use maybe to be able to exonerate Aaron Cheriot, because if he meant that Arap Chelulei could be voted out, he would have simply said, this guy has been opposing William Ruto in 2022, don't return him back to Bunge, send him home. That would have been very precise, but in English or maybe any other language, how you paraphrase your words, the vocabulary that you use to pass your message really means a lot, because just a single maybe component of the language and everything could mean a whole different thing. And to me, I think whatever he meant is just that what people actually got to understand in that particular day. And one thing to note is that after Cheriot and Linturi made such inflammatory remarks in Eldoret, some few aspirants who are vying on ODM and other parties that are affiliated to government and the former prime minister were actually attacked in some parts of the Rift Valley. And that actually goes ahead to explain to you how these people were able to interpret such sentiments from Cheriot and Linturi. So to me, I think whatever he meant is just that Mishra should be deported back to Punjab. And that is a very, very dangerous path that he is trekking on. Because very soon, maybe when we go to elections and Mishra loses the seat, we will find people going to his home, burning his house and trying to seize the asset that he has accumulated over time, because you also see that he's casting doubt on how Mishra made his property in Kenya. And therefore, that is like giving the people a direct ticket to go and claim this property and take it back to themselves, because it means Mishra has actually been a pest or maybe a parasite, siphoning a lot of this property from the local people, and yet he does not appreciate the leadership of the deputy president. So therefore, let him pay for his sins. Let him actually be prosecuted in a court of law and serve as a lesson to other people who are out there spreading hate, Miriam. I submit.
Very well, thank you. Now, after a 3-hour interrogation by NCIC officials, Cheruiyot told the media that he was summoned for calling the MP an Indian and telling voters to reject him on August 9th. I was not being condescending in any way in this country. Telling an elected leader to go home means that he shouldn't be voted in, and it's something many Kenyans know, he added. Daniel, not Daniel, but Samuel, sorry.
You know, Miriam, one thing that we need to remind these politicians is that we must at all times celebrate our diversity. There's nobody who chose to be born a Kenyan. There's nobody who chose to be born a Kikuyu, a Kalenjin, a Luo, a Maasai, or any tribe that actually found themselves in Kenya. We are all here by default and by God's design. And therefore, if Aaron Cheruiyot or any politician from the Rift Valley, those allied to Deputy President William Ruto, feel like they're uncomfortable with any politician who is not supporting the ambitions and the quest for presidency by Deputy President William Ruto, they have to be reminded that Kenya is a democracy, and being a democracy that it is, we must be able to uphold the right of each and every citizen in this republic to choose whichever kind of the political divide or politician they will want really to associate with or to vote for in the coming general election and any other election that we'll be having in future. Miriam, you know, when you listen to these leaders, especially those who are allied to Deputy President William Ruto, you really wonder, how come when they go to Nyanza region, for instance, they are cozy with the Migori governor, Okoth Obado, one who was elected on an ODM ticket. But we have not seen any of the politicians or even the leader of ODM, Raila Odinga, who is perceived to be, the kingpin of this particular region, coming out, say, to castigate Migori Governor Okoth Obado for supporting Deputy President William Ruto's presidential bid. And so other politicians really who are gravitating towards William Ruto from the Nyanza region, some from the western region, some from the coastal region. I mean, nobody has come out to castigate those leaders or call them names or trying to really to profile them simply because they are supporting Deputy President William Ruto. Because again, this other side of the political divide understands it too well, that it is a democratic right of every citizen, of every politician to associate with any political party or political leader of their choice. And they cannot do that through intimidation or coercion or even blackmail that we are seeing coming or emanating from the part of Deputy President William Ruto. So this is very, very unfortunate. And when Cheruiyot speaks of Mishra, the MP for Keses, this is a man who is a successful businessman, a man who has been a philanthropist, a man who has put up, say, hospitals, especially cancer centers, not only in parts of Rift Valley, but most parts of the country, including here in Nairobi. This is a kind of a genuine investor that all of us know in this country, a person who has been doing his business genuinely. And so simply because he resides in Eldoret and he was elected MP for Keses, does not really qualify that he must at all costs support Deputy President William Ruto. He still has a choice, much as he's of Indian origin. He's a Kenyan like any other, and he has a right to vie for any political seat in any part of this country. He has a right to choose which political party and which politician is going to associate with. So these are just some of the people who are astute in whatever they're doing, people who are intelligent, people who know what is best for the people that they represent. You know, Mishra is not one of those politicians. If you are to compare most of the elected leaders from Uasin Gishu, the likes of course, Oscar Sudi and others, these are people who are not just loud-mouthing, but people who are doing a very good job, a tremendous job for the people who elected them. You go to Keses constituency today, Miriam, you will be shocked the kind of development that Honorable Mishra has been able to undertake for the people of that constituency. And for him, his philanthropy, his kind of service is not limited even to his constituency. He does this to the entire of Uasin Gishu and the rest of the country. These are the kind of leaders that we need. So when you listen to these leaders really coming out and bastardizing, castigating the likes of Mishra, it tells you the kind of class, the kind of political cocoon that they are building, one which is intolerant, one which is not development conscious, one which is wants to put what I will call as a cultism in nature with the nature with which we are doing our politics in the country. In that, you must really kneel down before Deputy President William Ruto for you to be elected or for you to be able to do your business, especially where he commands a very huge following. So I want to repeat, Miriam, regardless of what William Ruto and his brigade think about other Kenyans, all Kenyans have a right to live and do business in any part of this country. It is not really a privilege or a favor from Deputy President William Ruto. This is a constitutional right, and it is God-given for us to be here, for us to be able to have our lives and do our business wherever we want in this country. And we are not going to do that at the mercy of Deputy President William Ruto.
Very well, thank you so much. So let's just jump on to another story. And we've not talked about the One Kenya Alliance for a while now. I think they made some, they met and made the way forward, I suppose. So let's just get the latest from this coalition or this alliance on page 7 on the Standard newspaper. The One Kenya Alliance Secretariat has retreated to Naivasha to fine-tune a document that will guide its principles in the choice of a presidential candidate. The team arrived at the Great Reef Lodge yesterday afternoon to make final touches on the document that could make or break the coalition that has been under immense pressure to name a flag bearer. One Kenya Alliance has also faced pressure to join ODM leader Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja or Deputy President William Ruto's Hustler movement. According to an advanced team that checked into at the hotel, the principals will tomorrow approve draft regulations on how they will pick a flag bearer at the August 9th general election. And One Kenya principals Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Moses Wetangula for Kenya, and Gideon Moi of KANU are optimistic the guidelines will help them pick a formidable candidate. Can you take this to the bank and check and cash that check, Sharon, that they will actually come out to the presidential flag bearer, this One Kenya Alliance?
I'm also one of the people that is trying to hold my breath and see the outcome, that is going to come up after the 3-day retreat. But for me, I think the center is not going to hold, and their disintegration is actually going to begin the moment if at all they are going to ever, declare a flag bearer, because they have all been firm, at different events, about how they all want to go to the ballot. So I don't know how it will turn out for if Kalonzo is, presented as the flag bearer to Musalia, and how is it going to turn out for all of them? And Mudavadi has actually been very indecisive, not him, not even Kalonzo, and basically the entire Oka team. And I think for Mudavadi, when you look at what happened at Lungu Stadium, like I mentioned a while back, I think should have been something that would have dawned into him about the reality on the ground. And I think the mistake that he made, was to actually not show up. The best he would have done was to just show up. But the fact that, he deliberately decided not to show up, then even the people of, Western have now seen the sign of the time and are slowly but sure gaining a momentum. And you can clearly tell that they are warming up to the tune of Azimio la Umoja. See how many defections that we've had this week alone. And I understand that even Kalonzo is said to have a rally during, I think, in Yatta on Saturday. And we're expecting to see the kind of news that is going to come up with, because when you look at Eastern, all the 3 governors have all, they have all warmed up to the tune of Azimio la Umoja. So I don't know how this is going to turn up and turn out for, for him. And for the votes that maybe he thought he had. And if you see the people like Ayub Savula, so many people have defected. And I had, Ayub actually saying that the reason as to why he decided to, defect is that, he actually saw that Oka is not going to survive politically, and even for his personal political ambitions, it would have actually hit the rock. So let's wait and see. But I've always said that working with the deputy president is actually going to, if at all they finalize to work with whatever team, either the Azimio or the UDA, but for the UDA, it's going to lower any of their chances to survive politically, even after, remember the former prime minister, for him, he just wants 5 years. So, I mean, we still have more time for them if they actually choose to, warm up to their coalitions of Azimio la Umoja, rather than this other side where, someone, the leader has fronted out to be, someone who wants power to himself. And who knows, probably he might even extend his time in office the moment that he's actually elected. So it is about time and strategy that goes really hand in hand when it comes to good optics in politics. But as they say, a day in politics is eternity. Let us wait and see how this plays out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. Just before you come in, according to a source within the Secretariat, the 4 principals had vowed to back one of their own in the coming elections. We shall have a meeting starting Wednesday and on Friday. We shall brief the principals before we make the decision on way forward. The official added that they would also review the proposal to work with other parties. The principals have not ruled out working with other parties, and we shall come up with the engagement regulations, which will be shared with our leaders. So I guess working with other parties, Daniel Wesonga, from the context of One Kenya Alliance, is it they're working with, assuming they decide to work with the Azimio la Umoja, are they expecting Raila and the rest of the politicians there to join them here and support one of the flag bearers from One Kenya Alliance? Or how do you see this working with other parties, in terms of conditions that we've seen in Azimio la Umoja? We can't hear you.
Yes, sorry, are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, first and foremost, Miriam, I'm saying that big rivers can't join small rivers. It is small rivers who join big rivers. And therefore, Raila Odinga cannot go into One Kenya Alliance to support one of the candidates, or neither will William Ruto with his bloated ego go to One Kenya Alliance and support one of the principals. But one thing for sure, Miriam, is that in politics, money is very, very essential. When John F. Kennedy was asked how he was able to win the American presidential election at such a young age, he said that strategy number 1 that he had was money. Strategy number 2 he had was money. And finally, the strategy number 3 he had was money. And I'm well versed, Miriam, with whatever has been going on behind the scenes with One Kenya Alliance. I remember one of my sources in Mount Kenya Foundation told me that a day before the Mount Kenya Foundation could actually endorse Raila Odinga, One Kenya Alliance wrote to the foundation and told them to actually delay the decision without knowing who they would endorse at that time. They told the Mount Kenya Foundation to delay the announcement of their preferred candidate and went ahead to propose a ticket of Musalia Mudavadi and Martha Karua and gave Mount Kenya a campaign budget that they had in mind. So that tells you that these are people who do not have money to bankroll a presidential campaign. And therefore, whatever that is delaying even the takeoff of One Kenya Alliance is not because maybe the tone between who is going to be the flag bearer between Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, Gideon Moi. It is a money factor in One Kenya Alliance. No presidential candidate there can actually dare and go run against Raila Odinga and William Ruto and be able to oil his campaign machinery and be able to win that election. For the few stunts that we've been seeing with One Kenya Alliance, I can say categorically that those have always been funded by my party leader, Gideon Moi. And without Gideon Moi, One Kenya Alliance is dead as a dodo. And that is why right now, the only conversation they have, even for the stalwarts who are supporting Musalia Mudavadi, they are saying that we are going to give Musalia Mudavadi the go-ahead to forge alliances with like-minded partners. Why not go it alone as One Kenya Alliance? Because they do not have money. They want to hang on the courts of these two top contenders so that they sail through the wave and be able to get something out of the negotiations. And Miriam, there are some things I cannot say maybe on camera, But currently, as you can see, I'm moving around, and whatever we are doing right now is in terms of the coalition formation process for the various parties which are under Azimio la Umoja. And I can give you a lot of intelligence about One Kenya Alliance and the principles, about the demands that they have given to Azimio la Umoja coalition, about the demands they have even extended to William Ruto. And that is why, in as much as Musalia Mudavadi is talking in a language of maybe supporting William Ruto, they are reading from the same script, they haven't yet made their move to the UDA side real, because there are some certain conditions that he has given to the UDA party leader, William Ruto, and those terms have not been met because they think these terms are a bit unrealistic to be fulfilled, owing to the support base that Musalia Mudavadi commands in Western Kenya, and the loftiness of the ambition of Musalia Mudavadi in terms of expectation from these deals. So to me, I think One Kenya Alliance is not even a horse in this competition. It's a donkey. And before they know it, perhaps they'll be left in a world overtaken by events, because we have more strong governors, second-term governors who are finishing and who can be able to go on board and negotiate on behalf of these, of their backyards, which are controlled by these gentlemen. So to me, I think, Miriam, all said and done, One Kenya Alliance is not gonna have a candidate on the ballot, but it's going to work either with Azimio la Umoja or Tanga Brigade. And as it is right now, Miriam, it is actually divided right in the middle, with Kalonzo Musyoka and Gideon Moi drifting towards Azimio la Umoja, and Moses Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi of ANC going all the way to UDA. I submit, Miriam.
All right, very well. And speaking of Ukambani, there's a story I wanted us to look at, but of course we can't because of the interest of time. We do have another show on top of the hour at 11 a.m. But the leaders in Ukambani, I think yesterday had a press conference, and they were saying, they're insisting that Kalonzo Musyoka has to be on the ballot there. So that is also something to consider. Now this meeting and perhaps the announcement that will follow, perhaps in the next few days, that we've been waited last year, and now they're saying we give them some time and they will name the flag bearer. Personally, I don't see the flag bearer coming out from One Kenya Alliance, but perhaps in coalition with other politicians, and reaching out to other politicians from either divide, either the deputy president or what do you call that? The one for Raila Odinga, Azimio la Umoja, but them producing a presidential flag bearer, they don't even trust themselves to even choose one of themselves. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, as I wish.
Thank you, Miriam, and thank you, colleague panelists, for the submissions you've made on this. Miriam, there are a lot of ways I can quite describe the One Kenya Alliance. And what is dogging that alliance as we speak today, Miriam? One is the aspect of mistrust. Second is selfishness. And the third, I believe, is indecisiveness. They say, Miriam, in life, the worst thing that you can do is to be indecisive. You must always be in a position to take a stand, regardless of the consequences. You must be able to take a stand. And for Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and others in the One Kenya Alliance, they should have taken a stand as we speak today, whether it's going up to the ballot or supporting either William Ruto or former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja, so that they live by the position and stand that they would have taken. But because of the indecisiveness that is the One Kenya Alliance, because of the selfishness of the principles that makes it, because of the mistrust that of course is dogging the One Kenya Alliance, it becomes almost impossible for them to be able to forego their own ambition and support an individual, even outside the One Kenya Alliance, for the sake of this country and the greater interest of the people of Kenya, Miriam. And I can see, where the mistrust comes in, Musalia Mudavadi has been able to bring on board so many people in the name of principles. He's brought on board Moses Wetangula, he's brought Cyrus Jirongo. The other day we saw he has brought the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Kenneth Marende, and now he has almost about 5 people from the same house, and trying now to coerce Kalonzo Musyoka to endorse him for the top seat, or to go for the top seat. And in itself, I think what he's trying to do is that even if they were to say to vote amongst them, are they 9, or I think it is Daniel Wesonga who knows the exact number of the membership of the One Kenya Alliance, to the extent that Musalia Mudavadi thinks by bringing on board all these other individuals, he will be able to coerce all other principals really to back him, because he knows he will talk with the Wetangula, their home language. He will talk with Ken Marende, the same. He will talk with Cyrus Jirongo to coerce the likes of Gideon Moi and say, of course, Kalonzo Musyoka to support his bid for presidency. But I can tell you, the same kind of accusations that they had when they exited the National Super Alliance, NASA, is the same thing that is dogging them. They were blaming Raila Odinga's led ODM for mistrust, for deceit, and all those manner of things. But now we cannot understand why they cannot even agree after they exited NASA and formed the One Kenya Alliance. But one thing I can assure you, it will be better for the One Kenya Alliance principles really to join Azimio La Umoja that is led by Raila Amolo Odinga currently, Miriam. Because for one, it is not just about winning election. And I think I've insisted on this on many occasions. For Raila Odinga, it's not just a winning election, but making sure that we bring as many leaders and as many people in this country, if not all, to this bandwagon called the Azimio La Umoja. So that by the end of the day, when Raila even wins the presidency, come August general election, it is not him who has won, but the people of Kenya and the entire leadership of this country. So it will be in the best interest of the people of Kenya that the One Kenya Alliance chooses really to work with Raila Amolo Odinga. You've heard them hint, the secretariats has retreated to come up with, of course, a process or a formula with which they are going to pick a flag bearer. And Kalonzo Musyoka also says he's going to have a declaration on Saturday. What does it tell you? We are likely going to see Kalonzo maybe announce to his decision to back Raila Odinga, or even go up to the ballot box. So whichever way, it is more of a wait and see, because all these politicians are really keeping their cards closely in their chest, and we cannot quite understand what kind of games are at play. But by the end of the day, what is done in the dark will still come to the limelight, and we are waiting to see which decisions they'll be making in the coming time. Miriam, I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And that is where we end our conversation on the Kenya story this morning. I'll just read through quickly some news from across the continent, but I'm afraid we will not get into looking at them because we do have another show coming up in just about 2 minutes there. And so we shall start with Mali, where Russia and China blocked the United Nations Security Council on Tuesday from supporting new sanctions on Mali for its military leader's decision to delay next month's election until 2026, a blow to the restoration of democracy in the troubled West African nation. This emerged even as Francophone West Africa's regional aviation authority accused a French military plane of violating sanctions imposed by West African states against Mali by flying into the country from neighboring Ivory Coast. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the Regional Monetary Union sanctioned Mali on Sunday after its interim government, installed in the wake of coups in 2020 and 2021, proposed to delay planned elections by up to 4 years. Member states pledged to close the air and land borders and cut off Mali's access to regional financial markets. Okay, and then we head over to Botswana, where Botswana's President Mokwetsi Matete has left isolation just over a week after testing positive for COVID-19 without symptoms. The government said yesterday his medical team had assessed his health status and subsequently cleared him because he continues to have no COVID-19 associated symptoms, and that is according to the government spokesperson. And then we head on to Ethiopia, where security forces in Ethiopia's Oromia region state have neutralized about 433 suspected Oromo Liberation Army OLA rebel group fighters. Ethiopia state media outlet Walter TV has reported on Tuesday another 115 suspected OLA members were captured during security operations in Horu Guduru Wolega zone of Oromia regional state. And then we go to Tanzania, where 3 people died on Tuesday following an explosion caused by a suspected hand grenade in the country's eastern region of Coast, according to police. Coast Regional Police Commander Wancho Nigesa told the press conference that the incident occurred on Monday at 2 p.m. in Pongwe Musunguru village in the Coast region. He said the 3 men picked up an object suspected to be a hand grenade that exploded as they examined it, killing them instantly. And then we head over to Cameroon, where gunmen have killed an opposition senator in Cameroon's restive Anglophone region of Northwest, and that is according to officials. John Kemende, senator of Cameroon's main opposition party, the Social Democratic Front, was killed in Bamenda chief town of the region on Tuesday night. SDF spokesperson Jean Robert Wafo told Xinhua early yesterday, and gunmen attacked the senator's vehicle in Mile 2 junction neighboring, Mr. Wafo said, and that happens even, we know the southwest and northwest parts of Cameroon have been restive, the Anglophone region part, and just the beginning of, last week, on Sunday, at the beginning of the AFCON, on Sunday, I think we raised those concerns because there's some matches that will be taking place in that place. So we were worried about the safety of the players and what will be taking place there. So now you hear that a senator from that area has been murdered. I think that is, I don't know if that should worry the people who are there right now. And in Nigeria, this is a headline I'd read earlier, but I think it's important that we repeat it. And now terrorists on the rampage in Plateau as Niger kills 52, abduct hunters and others. Not Niger, the country, but I think Niger, the state. Now, Niger terrorists tied victims' hands to their backs before shooting them, residents have said, and the long demands arrest as invaders gunned down 18 in fresh Plateau community attack. And of course, Buhari has lifted the Twitter ban after 222 days of suspension. And I think I've said here before, last year when this ban was put into effect, and I repeat right now, that ban was unnecessary. That ban was, that ban was really unnecessary. And you'd think the Nigerian government has other very urgent issues, like for instance, the insecurity that we keep seeing playing out in Nigeria, to look at and to consider and to try to address, rather than just wasting time on social media. And there's also a story that we didn't get a chance to look at, and that is President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday making an impromptu visit in Kisumu. So that's what you do. That's what you do. You just focus on things that benefit the people there. But we thank you so much for your time this morning. I thank you, Samuel Tawish, Daniel Wasonga, and Sharon Gitonga. Of course, we'll give way to our next show. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Gotum. A very good morning to you, and see you in a bit.
Thank you.